What advice do you have for someone starting a company?
Someone starting, boy, I have tons of advice for people starting companies.
Well, what's like your top piece of advice?
Top number one piece of advice. Make sure that you, first of all, you should have at least one co-founder, if not more, otherwise you'll go insane. And make sure that you have figured out who owns what. If you haven't split up the equity and documented this,
God, I agree.
That is the biggest mistake
also
that I see people making.
Vesting.
And vesting, you have to have vesting provisions, yes.
When I worked briefly in venture capital, and I saw, I would say a third of the companies has like this like guy Frank something with 25. You're like, who's Frank? Oh, Frank was here for 3 weeks and left, and then it's 25. And then now you can't give equity to current employees, and it screws up. Like.
Yep. Everybody makes that mistake because nobody knows that. I mean, it's one of the things that I guess your intuition just doesn't help you with.
Well, you're sitting around, you're coming up with ideas, you're all buddies. It's kind of like a prenup or something, right? It's like you don't want to like, it's like you're having this romantic sort of moment of thinking about the beginnings of a company, and you don't want to like put in these clauses that say what happens if you leave, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the other interesting point about co-founder, I agree with you that a lot of people talk about the co-founder as like something you need business-wise. I think it's just something if you go insane, right? Like you just need it's just hard.
Yeah,
it's hard enough as it is.
Same reason that you need to get married eventually. You're going to want to have a life partner, and it's not required, and you're not going to die instantly. But I mean, it really does make so many things easier to have somebody to talk with, to bounce ideas off of.
Just like therapy, like someone else in your position, and
Yep. And you should approach the finding of a co-founder like the finding of a spouse, essentially. I mean, it's that important. If your co-founder is going to drive you crazy, you're going to go crazy. So you better find somebody you're compatible with.
Who do you most admire?
Oh boy, everyone, gosh.
Everyone.
You, Chris. I don't know where to
You admire everyone.
I don't even know where to start.
How about in business? Like who's like
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates. So more than Steve Jobs.
Yes.
And is that? I mean, I think.
You disagree.
Well, I think of Bill Gates as he's like a brilliant business strategist.
Yes,
for sure,
and a philanthropist.
And he's a great philanthropist. Yeah,
yes. And unbelievably smart.
Unbelievably smart. Yeah.
I mean, I met him I think 2 or 3 times at Microsoft, and he always blew me away. Like it is very, very strange for him to be the smart at a company that hires the best and the brightest. That he was still the smartest person in the room.
So even more than Steve. So Steve, I sort of think of Steve Jobs as like genius product person, and Bill Gates is sort of genius business strategist and philanthropist.
And programmer. I mean, he would ask very little detailed technical questions about programming things that actually ultimately mattered, and he figured that out way faster.
Do you think that's like? I mean, there is a strong correlation between the company's performance and his presence there. And
I absolutely agree. I never really liked. I guess I shouldn't say this on television, but. He was great.
I mean, it's just like,
and he was replaced by somebody who doesn't have the same.
You can't replace a guy like that, probably, right? I mean, like he's just. He's not
the
that
visionary.
there's anything wrong with Steve Ballmer, but you just can't replace Bill Gates, right? I mean, like.
Exactly.
So, do you have a favorite charity?
Donors Choose lets you pick awesome.
Great charity.
Yep. I don't know why all of us in the tech industry know about
this. Well, it's kind of crowdsourced and kind of it's got this kind of like cool internet.
It's very Web 2.0. You can pick a school and you can pick a topic like you want to help schools, math classrooms or something like that. And you can find specific projects, and a teacher will give you an exact list of exactly what he or she needs to do whatever type of project and how much it's going to cost. And you can contribute to that if you like the project. What
motivates you? Like to you had a successful business, you probably didn't need to go and raise VC and put yourself through this.
Yeah. Well, I'm not really sure. I think it's just sort of, what's the next thing that I can learn? I want to be learning and doing different things every day. And at some point, the bootstrap business story, I had pretty much completed learning about that. And then I said, what the heck, let's try learning about this other world of the fast-growing VC type business.
And is it fun?
It is fun, and it's interesting, and I'm learning new things all the time.
Is it stressful to raise money and things?
Yes. There was a very, very stressful point, the transition to an organized company from, basically 4 or 5 guys just sort of informally building something. And then the transition to, okay, we got to get our paperwork in order, and we've got to give everybody the right number of shares, which we had agreed upon, but it turns out that they're in the Series A, there's always games that are played, and it was all very stressful, but we figured it out.
And does the pressure of having investors and having to shoot the moon or whatever, is that?
I mean, that was, I wanted that pressure specifically. That. I mean, I specifically wanted to have a company that was forced to shoot for the moon. I mean, I really wanted to kick ourselves into gear for doing that and doing it at high speed.
Cool. what do you think about the New York, California sort of thing people talk about? Like, do you think New York has gotten better? I think, well, that's not
New York has definitely gotten better.
Yeah, it's gotten better for tech companies.
Yeah, it's definitely gotten to be a more congenial place to be in a tech company. California always had this a very strong groupthink problem, and so you get the whole Quora business. And when we say New York gets better, that means that now everybody in New York also thinks that Quora is the next coming of the Messiah. But that said, there is I think there is a huge advantage to New York. It's easier. I feel like it's easier to hire here relatively.
People say it's so much harder to hire programmers here, and I think it's hard everywhere. First of all, but
yeah, it is hard everywhere. There's something about there really is a groupthink in Silicon Valley that's very, very strange. The Sand Hill Road groupthink that
which is good and bad. I think it's good because it's like they get this exuberance and then they like invest a lot of money and do some amazing stuff, obviously. But
sometimes.
I always think that I personally dislike this sort of New York versus California. I see it as more as like California's an awesome place. We love the tech community there, and let's have more of it here and less Wall Street, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good way to see it. And I feel like especially
Wall Street to me is a bad guy, and California is our ally in helping New York become more like a place where we actually build stuff and like don't just move money around or something.
Yeah, I totally agree. Companies like or funds like Union Square Ventures, where everybody describes as a California style fund that just happens to be geographically agnostic and located in New York City. It's pretty complicated, but it works. On the other hand, if you look at the companies that do really, really well in New York, they often bring something to the table that you could not imagine them getting in California. So you've got Etsy, which you just can't imagine that being a Silicon Valley company somehow. Like that can only happen in Brooklyn. Couldn't even happen in Manhattan. Yeah. You've got Gilt Group, obviously, with its connections to fashion. You've got the companies like DoubleClick with their connections to media. And all these things, I'm sure were tried and failed in California because the cultural fit or the other industries just weren't there.
Okay, so I think we're out of time. Thanks a lot for being here.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah.